West Hill United is a progressive spiritual community where how you live is more important than what you believe. West Hill United is a people, a place, an idea. We are a community living out of a progressive faith, striving to make a positive difference in our own lives, the lives of others, and the world. Join us Sundays at 10:30 a.m. or connect with us at any time.
Our first reading is from the Frog and Toad series of children's books. Frog and Toad are two friends who live near each other in little houses in the woods. Frog is more adventurous and confident, while Toad is a little more hesitant and awkward. But today, both Frog and Toad wake up and decide to do something nice. They each decide they will surprise their friend by raking up their leaves for them. Listen to what happens. The Surprise by Arnold Lebel. It was October. The leaves had fallen off the trees. They were lying on the ground. I will go to Toad's house, said Frog. I will rake all of the leaves that have fallen on his lawn. Toad will be surprised. So Frog took a rake out of the garden shed. Toad looked out of his window. Oh, these messy leaves have covered everything, said Toad. He took a rake out of his closet. I will run over to Frog's house and I will rake all of his leaves. And Frog will be very pleased. So Frog ran through the woods so that Toad would not see him. And Toad ran through the high grass so that Frog would not see him. Frog came to Toad's house and he looked in the window. Good, said Frog. Toad is out. He will never know who raked his leaves. Meanwhile, Toad got to Frog's house. He looked in the window. Good, said Toad. Frog is not home. He will never guess who raked his leaves. Frog worked hard. He raked the leaves into a pile. Soon, Toad's lawn was clean. So Frog picked up his rake and started for home. Meanwhile, Toad pushed and pulled on his rake. He raked the leaves into a pile. Soon, there wasn't a single leaf in Frog's front yard. Then Toad took his rake and started home. A wind came. It blew across the land. The pile of leaves that Frog had raked for Toad blew everywhere. The pile of leaves that Toad had raked for Frog blew everywhere. When Frog got home, he said, tomorrow I will clean up the leaves that are all over my own lawn. How surprised Toad must be. When Toad got home, he said, tomorrow I will get to work and rake all of my own leaves. But how surprised Frog must be. That night, Frog and Toad were both happy when they each turned out the light and went to bed. Offered as wisdom for the journey. May we walk
in its light.
In its light. On Giving is a poem by Robert Graves that describes the power of giving. Graves claims that giving is generative, that by giving we create more than there was before until we are overflowing, and there will be gifts for those who have nothing. On Giving by Robert Graves. Those who dare give nothing are left with less than nothing. Dear heart, you give me everything, which leaves you more than everything. Though those who dare give nothing might judge it left you less than nothing. Giving you everything, I too, who once had nothing, am left with more than everything, as gifts for those with nothing, who need, if not our everything, at least a loving something. Offered as wisdom for the journey. May we walk in light.
Thank you, Chris. So the thanks is in the giving. Now, both are important. It's important to embrace gratitude as we walk this mortal coil, and it's important to live in a spirit of generosity. It's important to give. The thanks is in the giving. And we see this in the parable about frog and toad. In the end, they didn't need any thanks. The reward was in the act of generosity. The thanks was in the giving. They raked their leaves for their friend, and then they went to bed happy because they had given a gift. They each thought of the surprise their friend would receive, and they were fulfilled. And they were fulfilled even though when you think of it, their gift went unfulfilled. Neither frog nor toad ever learned of the gift they received. And this unfulfillment of gift giving sometimes happens in real life as well. To be sure, for different reasons than frog and toad. I'm going to say Todd and frog sometime. For frog and toad, there's no wind blowing the leaves around, but it does seem like we try to give gifts. Sometimes it falls short of actually giving the gift. When we look closely at what happens at the event of the gift, it's not as straightforward as it looks. It's more porous, more multiplex. Because what actually happens when we give a gift is a bit more complicated. So let's take a look at what really happens. So when you give someone a gift, one of the first things they do is try to figure out how to repay this gift. They start thinking of the gift they're going to have to buy for you. They'll think, oh, what a lovely gift. I must get something to repay them. But it can't be too much, because that would, imbalance things. It has to match this gift. Not too much, not too little, just right. And see what happens then in the end is that I'm not really giving a gift. I'm giving an obligation. You know what I'm talking about. When you give a gift, you create a debt which must be repaid, which is not what gift giving is supposed to be. Somehow gift giving has turned into a transaction in our society. It's not an act of generosity. And by turning the act into a transaction, giving and generosity lose some of the power in the world. According to the philosopher Theodor Adorno, gift giving has generated into a social function, which one carries out with a reluctant will, with tight control over the pocketbook, a skeptical evaluation of the other, and with the most minimal effort. Real gift giving has its happiness in imagining the happiness of the receiver. It means choosing, spending time, going out of one's way. thinking of the other as a subject, the opposite of forgetfulness. Have you ever truly given someone a special gift? You ever given like a really special gift where you thought about who you're giving it to, you thought about what they liked and need, and you search for the perfect gift. You imagined their reaction. You imagined what would delight them, what would make them smile, what would quicken their heart and deepen the relationship between you. Because that's the potential of gift giving. I'm agreeing with Robert Graves on giving, that when you give everything, you're somehow left with, not with nothing, but with more than everything. And so there are gifts left over for those with nothing, but who need something, who need a loving something. As he wrote, giving you everything, I too once had nothing. I'm left with more than everything, as a gift for those with nothing, who need, if not our everything, at least a loving something. And what Graves is saying here is that giving is generative. That when you give, and I mean truly give, without obligation, without expectation, but just give everything, you create something. You create something that wasn't there before. That when you give everything, truly give without regard for any return, when you deny the transactional nature of giving in the modern world, you create something that was not there before. When I give everything, I am left with more than everything as gifts for those with someone who need a loving something. When we live life in a spirit of generosity, when we truly give with no regard for the transactional nature, we are creating something new. We are creating something that was not there before. When I give everything to you, it's not that you have something that I used to have. It's that more is there, more is created. It's not a transaction where you have what I used to have. It's not like there was something that I used to have and I gave it to you and now I don't have it anymore. No, something more is created. There is more than there was before the gift was given. Something new is created, and maybe what's created is agape love. It's like this little poem that Chris has shared with me on agape love when he heard about the readings and the theme. And what he wrote was, the human condition debates it, and self-centered thought underrates it. But giving away some love agape enriches the one who donates it. And that's what's so beautiful about the frog and toad story. The surprise gift they very carefully offered at the exact same time is its own reward. The gift, even though the wind intervened and blew all the leaves back into place, still had power. The gift was still transformative. And this was true even though the gift was never received. But they still received something. And we mustn't think this enjoyment in giving a gift takes any away from the act of generosity. What it does is it makes the transactional exchange we saw earlier, it defies that. Frog and Toad's pleasure in doing something for their friend increased the goodness in the world. Now, in some ways, we may never escape the transactional nature of giving, but that's okay. The goal is not to fix this transactional nature of gift giving, but to be aware of it, to acknowledge it, and give anyway. To give with generosity and love. To give everything, even if it's impossible. To live in a spirit of generosity. Because I truly believe that a spirit of generosity can transform the world. That through giving, really giving without reservation, without expectation, can help us build a better world. Peace. So now I invite you to stand as you feel comfortable, and let's sing our final hymn, which will be Mountains and Valleys. I think we're doing a reprise because Honestly, I found out about Scott not being around and we're going to do this music thing. And so I just found the nearest songs I could find and put them in there, I admit. So I hope, let's just sing it again anyway. Hopefully it'll work right this time, but just go through the lyrics, guys, no matter what happens. I'd like to thank Chris Avis for reading for us, Glenn Cockwell and Rongbin and Sanilla for making this happen in all sorts of adversity. I appreciate your work. I'd also like to thank our wonderful welcoming team who sets up and makes coffee and offers cookies for really making this gathering happen. And I'd like to thank all of you for just being here and sharing together. It's really inspiring. In a moment, we're going to have some breakout groups on Zoom, and so I have some questions if you would like. So what do you think about what I said about the transactional nature of gift giving? Do you have a best gift you've ever given? Do you have a best gift you've ever received? What do you think of this actual gift giving thing? And my advice is just to give and to give without reservation. Live life in a spirit of generosity. And so go into the world steeped in compassion, filled with love, giving freely, working for justice, open to the possibility of a better world, caring for your neighbor, and remembering that your neighbor is the one who is most in need. And so go, but as you go, do so, grounded in life, guided by love, growing in wisdom, giving thanks for all of life. Peace.
Become a sustaining champion of West Hill United's work by committing to an automatic monthly donation. Learn more or donate now through Canada Helps.